Imagine a world in which the balance of power swings with the ascension of a single monarch, where one woman's decisions pave the way for an empire to dominate global politics for centuries. From defeating the Spanish Armada to sowing the seeds of colonial expansion, Elizabeth I's policies and leadership style paved the path for the British Empire's growth. Why did young Elizabeth Tudor grow up to be such a strong queen? Elizabeth's childhood was full of drama because she was the daughter of the tragic Anne Boleyn, who had wooed King Henry VIII and married him again after his bitter split from Catherine of Aragon. Anne's sad death at the age of 2 had a big effect on her daughter Elizabeth, who couldn't have a son as a child. Elizabeth got a great education at Hatfield House, where she was raised by Roger Ascham and other scholars and governesses. She learned Latin and Greek very quickly, and with the help of Catherine Parr, Henry VIII's sixth wife, she later became a great public speaker, which wasn't common for women back then. Later, when she needed to change things in Parliament and on the battlefield, that skill would help her a lot. Things went badly for Elizabeth as she lay down under an oak tree at Hatfield House on November 17, 1558. A messenger came to tell her that she would take over as Queen of England after her controversial half-sister Mary I died. A nation that was reeling from Mary's bad leadership and badly needed stability looked to Elizabeth as a beacon of hope. The Elizabethan era, a time of renewal and growth, had started. 2 months later, Elizabeth was crowned queen. It was a big deal, with a carpet parade to Westminster Abbey and hordes of people trying to get souvenirs. Her sincere desire to include everyone, from the most powerful nobles to the most common street people, came from a deep concern for their well-being and an awareness of how important their support was politically. The people were also enthralled with their new queen. When Elizabeth made her council, she didn't waste any time making religion the most important thing. She wanted England to have its own religious character. During her rule, 1559-1563, she brought Protestantism back by starting the church settlement. This included a new book of common prayer, based on the one her brother Edward VI had made, in the use of English instead of Latin for religious books and public worship. In order to win over both Protestants and Catholics, Elizabeth was moderate and kept some Catholic things, like crucifixes, candelabra, and clergy vestments. Elizabeth I's unwavering love for her country was a big part of her rule. She reportedly said she was married to the Kingdom of England. Still, her pastors were shocked that she didn't want to get married, especially the worried Lord Burghley. People saw marriage as more than just a personal promise. They saw it as a political move that was necessary to make connections and make sure that power would be passed down through generations. Elizabeth didn't want to get married because she loved her country more than a relationship. In 1566, Parliament stopped paying her because they wanted her to explain if she was married or not, which she refused to do. Elizabeth was always dedicated to the good of the country, which she made clear through her speaking skills, rather than by being married. She was smart to use this private matter to help her political career. She put an end to any rumors about her marriage and saw the value in working with strong countries like France from a strategic point of view. Lizzie's personal life was just as difficult. She flirted as a way to get what she wanted and liked being with guys. Henry, Duke of Anjou, and Francis, Duke of Alençon, were both European noblemen with whom she had business ties, but they never got married during their proposals. The person she felt the closest to was Robert Dudley, Earl of Leicester, who was well known and powerful at court. Elizabeth used the fact that they were close to give her a reason to claim her independence, which made the other council members uncomfortable. In 1575, Leicester threw a big party at Kenilworth Castle to try to win her love for good. His love for her was clear. The event included banquets, fencing, and fireworks. It cost a lot of money, but it showed how much he loved and wanted to impress her. Mary, Queen of Scots, and other rival claims put Elizabeth's rule at risk, which set off the political drama that would test her leadership. Mary had a rough life. Her marriage to Francis II made an alliance, but her marriage to Lord Bothwell caused unrest in Scotland. She had to give up her throne because of her problems. Even though Mary was dangerous, Elizabeth showed her devotion to the success of her country and her role as Virgin Queen by handling these problems with a mix of political smarts and personal drive. Despite her difficult circumstances, Mary remained determined to pursue her aspirations. Because she had preconceived beliefs about the English Queen, Elizabeth I, she believed that a face-to-face meeting would win her over. Mary ignored her counselor's advice, disguised herself as a man, and fled to England in the hopes of finding help. Instead, she discovered incarceration. Elizabeth, who was apprehensive of Mary's royal heritage and the potential Catholic support she might receive for her claim to the English throne, imprisoned her at Carlisle Castle and subsequently at the lonely Tutbury Castle, effectively making her a perpetual prisoner. Despite her interest, Elizabeth avoided Mary for fear of the political consequences. Elizabeth's court ministers were impressed by the Scottish Queen's charisma and attractiveness, but despite Elizabeth's probing questions about Mary, the two never met. Many conspiracies revolved around Mary's arrival in England with the declared goals of her succeeding Elizabeth and re-establishing Catholicism. Among these plots was the more deadly Ridolfi plot, which sought Spanish assistance in deposing Elizabeth. Another was the Northern Uprising. The risks that Mary posed were well known to Francis Walsingham, Elizabeth's ardent priest. He took advantage of the opportunity in 1586, setting up a trap by reading Mary's letters to Catholic conspirators, stealing their identities, and even writing a postscript. This demonstrated without a reasonable doubt Mary's guilt of treason. The October 1586 trial of Mary at Fotheringhay was severe. She fought for her innocence despite being refused legal representation and papers, but she was eventually convicted and sentenced to death. Elizabeth was hesitant to sign the death warrant for fear of setting a precedent for regicide and facing European vengeance. However, Elizabeth was executed in February 1587 without having time to ponder about it, leaving her in a condition of deep sadness and seclusion. The beheading of Mary had such an impact on Catholic Europe that the Pope decided to support Spain's imminent invasion with a Spanish armada. The tragedy had a tremendous influence on Elizabeth, adding to the problems of her final decade as queen, which were exacerbated by the 9 Years' War in Ireland, the deaths of key advisors, and her own worsening health. James VI of Scotland succeeded Elizabeth following her death in 1603, resulting in a harmonious union of the crowns. Although Elizabeth's reign strengthened Protestantism and brought prosperity to England, it was not without flaws, like as corruption and poor local governance. Her illustrious career culminates in her 1601 Golden Speech, in which she reveals her cherished connection with her subjects, cementing her revered position in history as well as her mastery of public relations and eternal popularity. So that is all the time we had today, folks. Hope you enjoyed this video. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon on your way out. Till then, see ya!